Moving on, we're going to the old business, and that would be affiliation. And we're going to be getting a report from the negotiating team. Sarah is here, Sarah Cave, to give us an update. What's going on?
Thank you. I'm Sarah Cave with Sarah Cave Consulting. This is my colleague Steve Hebner from Hebner Advisory. And we're going to give you an affiliation update and then pause at the appropriate time for the negotiating team members, the commissioners on the negotiating team, to get you up to speed on a few things, and then we'll move to some recommendations that the negotiating team has. And I will invite Steve to chime in if he has commentary to add as I'm walking through this. So the objectives tonight, again, an affiliation update. We will talk a little bit about a Plan B that the negotiating team has been discussing, and move to, again, a board decision and vote around the next steps. Group agreements, you're all familiar with these, very practiced in observing them, so we'll move on. Just very quickly, a reminder of the affiliation engagement process and where we have been, the phases we've moved through, and where we are currently. If you look at this slide, we were sort of halfway through phase 4 and beginning to engage in due diligence and take some steps toward a letter of intent. So that's just a kind of a picture of a reminder of the steps that we've been through. And I think one of the things that's important to re-ground you in as we walk through the rest of this tonight is what we did early on in phases 1 and phase 2 around developing your guiding principles and goals of affiliation. Those have been really helpful criteria, if you will, as we've been moving through this process. So, quick reminder of why it is that this board made the decision to engage in discussions with Astria. As I believe everyone's aware, Astria was the only organization that followed through on its intent to respond to the RFP. And their initial proposal did a pretty good job of addressing the board's goals of affiliation. In particular, I think the revenue bond debt service, which was your highest priority item, as well as the growth in services around making some investments to expand the services locally. You heard when John Gallagher and his team came initially to visit about a rebranding effort that Astria had been through, and some of what they were intending with that. And they also made a clear commitment in their proposal to invest to the tune of $10 million in upgrading facilities to be able to expand service offerings such as surgery. So a little bit of background and context about what's happened since October 26th, which is when you voted to move forward with the next phase of strategic affiliation discussions with Astria. At that time, what we envisioned we'd be moving into was the drafting of a letter of intent. And I'll come back to that in a moment. And then, of course, initiation of due diligence, gathering of more information from both parties and analyzing that. On October 26th, the board also agreed to form a negotiating team to work through the letter of intent and the due diligence phase with representatives of Astria. And that team was comprised of 2 commissioners, President Norris and Secretary Spikers, as well as Tom Parker and General Counsel Skip Hauser and Steve and myself. So the negotiating team has been meeting every 2 to 3 weeks and staying in contact pretty regularly over email and by phone as needed in between. We did have one joint negotiating team with members of Astria's executive team, and that was on December 8th. And then in early January, the two parties decided that it would be a good idea to put the letter of intent on hold for a 30 to 45-day time period in order to evaluate what was an alternative transaction structure that Astria had asked SVH to consider. And it was a little bit different and more complex than the more straightforward lease arrangement that we had originally been anticipating. And so we felt as a group it would be good to recommend to you all, let's take a pause before we enter into a letter of intent and really investigate, is this workable and is it feasible? So here's where I'm going to turn things over to, first let me ask, Steve, do you have anything to add?
No,
Okay. All right. So I'm going to turn it over to President Norris and Secretary Spikers to give you a formal briefing from the negotiating team before we move ahead with Plan B.
Okay, I have to confess, this is the first time I've seen this, and it was put in front of me to read, so I'm a little disturbed that I didn't have it earlier. The current status, following this exploration and nearing the end of a 45-day time frame that had previously been agreed upon, the Affiliation Consultants communicated a request to Astria Health on behalf of the Snoqualmie Valley Hospital negotiating team to move forward with haste to, one, perform the financial due diligence that would be necessary and meet the initial bondholder requirements, and two, begin negotiating on a short-term list of deal points and critical importance. I can tell you we did our part. We didn't hear anything from Astria, nothing. The Snoqualmie Valley negotiating team met on February 26 and agreed that Astria's response to the request was not in alignment with the district's guiding principles nor the goals of affiliation. Based on this, the Snoqualmie Valley Hospital negotiating team recommends to the Snoqualmie Valley Hospital Board that it discontinue affiliation discussions with Astria and regroup around a Plan B. Plan B involves reconnecting with those parties who initially intended to respond to the RFP for affiliation to determine if there is interest in pursuing an alternative affiliation agreement based on a more flexible set of transaction provisions. I think everybody got a note from me when I was approached by John, one of the representatives, and I do not believe in backdoor dealings. I feel the board needs to know, and that's why I sent that out, is that I didn't want, and at the same time he was reaching out to me, he was reaching out to Tom. So that right there.
Reaching out to all of us.
I did not get a copy of that.
Oh, I will make sure you get a copy. It's just a letter where I told him I would not meet with him. That's all I pretty much said in private. So
Copies went to the other.
Did you? I didn't get one.
No.
However, I did get an email as well from Mr. Gallagher's executive assistant, and I did acknowledge that I received it, and that is all that I say.
I'm surprised because I used the hospital district email and I sent them out to everybody. So if you didn't get them, I am really sorry, because I want you to know that we didn't hear anything from him for a while, and then all of a sudden he wanted to start negotiating, and I will be quiet.
Thank you for that.
Is there anything you'd like to add, Tom, before I move ahead to
Recommendations.
We
have recommendations from the negotiating team.
Sure. Secretary Spikers.
I think pretty much summed up. I have my own feelings about what happened, but my feelings really don't have any relevance to the proceedings. I'd rather keep them to myself. I think that pretty much summed up what I thought did happen, and that is pretty accurate.
I would agree. Having been on the negotiating team, I think that what you read in here is a very accurate reflection. It doesn't, of course, give all the detail, but it is an accurate reflection of deliberations and the mindset and unanimous recommendation from our negotiating team.
No, I think that's consistent. I guess I would just add, I think to emphasize there were really two areas. One was the district performing due diligence on Astria and seeking information there, and then the other was on some deal points that I think that the negotiating team felt that you, as a board, were very important to you. And so it was just seeking information in both of those areas. I think we just felt like we didn't get enough information that was meaningful to move forward.
I think that's accurate, wouldn't you say, David?
Yeah, that's the bottom line.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so with that, let's talk a little bit about the Plan B proposal that we've been discussing in the negotiating team setting. And that would be to approach the organizations that initially intended to respond to the RFP but did not actually wind up responding. And those, just for a recap, are Multi-Care, Overlake, UW Medicine, and Virginia Mason. And the idea here would be, rather than a formal RFP, to start with personal phone calls or meetings to explore their interest in having some discussion about potential affiliation options. And with that would come a deeper discussion around some more flexible Plan B provisions, which the negotiating team has begun to discuss around the term of such an agreement, the debt service component, service expansion, excess tax revenues, branding, all of those things that you all identified in your goals for affiliation. But the idea here again would be to have provisions that were a bit more flexible, allowing a potential affiliate partner to come forward with sort of their best ideas, as opposed to a more restrictive approach, which is what we took the first time around, and wound up only with the one response. So that's really what is on the table in terms of proposed next steps. And I think here we're moving to an official negotiating team recommendation. Excuse me. And that is, does the board wish to accept the negotiating team's recommendations that discussions with Astria be discontinued and that the Snoqualmie Valley Hospital Board move on to Plan B of the affiliation process?
Is there a motion to,
Does this require a motion or maybe
Yeah.
a consensus at this point?
well, I think we're going to, at some point tonight, we're going to need a motion to know where we're going to go next.
And
Take
also that
action.
means to authorize the chair to notify Astria, Regional Health Yakima, Astria, that we are terminating our negotiation.
Discontinue.
I think that's probably, I'm not sure how they plan on doing it, but
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
it's up to us.
yes, and I would think so, but
Is that correct?
Sarah, that we would send them a note and tell them that we are no longer interested in moving forward.
At this time.
At this point, appropriate. I don't know if you want to mention the late-breaking communication.
I will mention that. Late this afternoon, we did receive a letter from Astria, knowing that we were headed likely in this direction, and they said it was a thank you. We wish you, Snoqualmie Valley Hospital and the district well, and we understand where things are probably going to go. And if you change your mind and you want to reinitiate conversations with us, we are open to that. But it's a very gracious letter, kind of knowing where we were headed. That came from Mr. Gallagher.
I would presume that our chair's letter would also be as gracious and wish them well in providing health services in the Yakima Valley.
I think that would be
Yeah.
appropriate.
That sounds like a very good idea, Commissioner Pollard.
Okay. Oh, sorry. I make a motion
So you can.
that the board, SVH board move on to Plan B of the affiliation process.
Does that include item 1 in your motion?
Okay, so, no, I just wanted, my choice would be number 2. I don't want to include number 1.
The recommendation would be that discussions with Astria be discontinued, and that the Snoqualmie Valley Hospital Board would move into Plan B of affiliation process.
Is it appropriate for me to mention both of them?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay, I make a motion that, 1, the discussions with Astria be discontinued, and 2, that the SVH board move on to Plan B of affiliation process.
Second.
Is there any further discussion?
I would have
Mr. David?
some reservations about item number 2. And I'm going to discuss it if you don't mind. I don't think that we should rush into Plan B immediately. I think we should have an immediate or quick of the next work study session on the 28th, which I now know I will be at, to talk some more about potential options. And I would like to hold off on Plan B for that reason. I'd rather have the board as a whole talk about this a little bit more and potential options.
I agree with Commissioner Spikers. I think we do as a board need to, we're all going to be responsible for whatever decision we make, whether we approve it or not, but we're all in this together. And so I think that to have some discussions amongst ourselves and decide how we see this, I think would be a good idea. Commissioner
Does
Paul?
the motion need to be amended?
Well, we have
We're
one
still under
motion.
discussion, correct?
No, can we clarify the motion, please?
The motion,
No, I'm from the clerk. I'd like to, she's the one recording the
Commissioner
motion.
Aaron moved that, pretty much verbatim what's on the screen, but moved that discussion with Astria be discontinued, and 2, that the SVH board move on to Plan B of affiliation process.
And it was seconded by Commissioner Young. So your motion before the body at this time has been moved and has been seconded. You are in debate at this point.
I think the point that you made and Commissioner Spikers made is well-founded, partly because we haven't clarified what Plan B is, number 1. Number 2, we should learn something from this process. When we tried an affiliation and the LOI years ago with another hospital, after it was over, we didn't do an after-action report, our lessons learned, and I think that hurt us in this process. So I don't know how to do it mechanically or with Robert's Rules of Order, but I think that your point about we're in this together and we should be able to meet as a group before we automatically go to an undefined Plan B.
May I make
Well,
a
yeah, go
suggestion,
ahead.
Commissioner Pollard? If that's what you're saying, then I understand that what you would like to say is that or amend the motion that discussions with Astria be discontinued, and then from there, that the board decide what Plan B is going to be.
And the board will consider other options.
Yeah, may I say something about the Plan B? It's been summarized exactly what Plan B is. It's right here, how it's going to be it's going to go about it, the process. So I think it's clear, to me at least. I am looking more on what is the financial ramifications for continuing to delay this. What is our financial obligation now?
Commissioner Paul,
Yes, Commissioner Pollard.
We have time. Act in haste, repent at leisure. I think if we just go with the item 1, then that's good for tonight, and we can consider item 2 at a separate meeting and meet as a group to discuss what we might want to create ourselves or form ourselves as Plan B.
Is there further discussion on that suggestion?
I guess I have a question. Do we have to vote on this particular thing, or can we motion as presented, or do we need to amend it?
Well, I think Emma made a motion, and I don't think we got a second. Did we?
Yes, Joan did.
Right, so we have a second. So that, we either vote for that or against that. We have, or withdraw it. It's up to the board, but
Do you want to withdraw it and then amend it?
it's, are we doing this right?
Well, you have a
You have to
motion.
vote first on the
And
first
second,
motion.
You should resolve this motion before
Yes.
the body now.
Okay,
You vote it up or down.
Yes, you have to
and then
vote
you can
first.
make new motions.
Right.
okay.
I move we table the motion and reconsider a different motion.
No, there's, no.
No,
The
we
first
have to
motion
vote.
has
No,
to
it's
be.
been a second.
Have to
Table the
vote.
motion?
No, there's
No,
a second.
It's just,
It's been moved and seconded. It is in debate at this point.
But you can still table the motion if
Not
that's...
yet.
Well, you could table the motion to a future date, and...
But it's still there.
Require a majority vote. You can table the motion to a future date, set a date for the motion to be brought back off the table for consideration. And you would require, in order to table the motion, you'll need a second, and you'll need a vote to table.
Can we hear a recommendation from the superintendent?
gladly. I would recommend that you, not hearing what I'm hearing, that you take a vote on the motion. My guess is that we'll likely fail, and then provide you with an opportunity to make another motion. And then you don't have to come back to it. Then, and I think this is what Skip was saying.
That's what I'm saying.
It's clean, and you don't have to carry that motion further to another meeting.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. All those opposed?
No.
Repeat again, please.
Okay, could you read it for us, please, Val?
Commissioner Herron moved that one, that discussions with Astria be discontinued, and two, that the SVH board move on to Plan B of affiliation process. And Commissioner Young seconded.
Well, Plan B isn't defined.
Please.
No.
So,
Do we vote on one first?
No.
No, we've
Motion
said
voted
no.
at both parts.
So I'm
Both
going to make
parts.
another
Same
motion.
vote.
Okay.
No, that motion failed. I'm going to make another
No, we
motion.
didn't.
Not yet,
You
not yet.
didn't vote yet.
Oh, we didn't? I thought we said no.
Not yet.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those that oppose say no.
No.
Okay,
Now that motion has failed, and that has been completed.
yes.
You now can,
Make.
Madam President, make additional motions, request motions to be made.
I will
and
request.
chair can make a motion.
Yeah. Is there any other motion?
I make a motion that discussions with Astria be discontinued and a polite letter, gracious letter be sent to them,
I second it.
Period.
period.
Is there any other discussion? Do we have a second?
yes,
Yep,
Joan?
okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, it passes.
So what we would be happy to do is provide to you a little bit more of the framing discussion that we had at our last negotiating team meeting, because we did spend quite a bit of time on those Plan B provisions, and we can certainly share that with you in anticipation of whenever you're going to have those board discussions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a safe trip.
Actually, I have a brief comment. I'd just like to make sure that the burden model is foremost in your mind and consideration as you consider to go forward in negotiations with other entities. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments that the board wants to make before we close? I know it's not on here, but I'm going to ask anyhow.
I just want to make one last comment. I have a certain plan that I think I'm going to stick to. I've discussed this in the short committee of the finance committee about how I would like to proceed in any kind of an affiliation process. And I'm pretty I'm going to be really digging my heels in that. If it doesn't go that way, I'm going to allow someone else to take over the reins. So, and I'll give my reasons, but I think you should probably all understand where I'm coming from and why I'm saying what I'm going to say at the next meeting. And I really think that the process that we've had has not been effective and worth what we've been paying. So,
Commissioner Spikers, is there a reason why you can't share that right now with us?
yeah, sure, I can. I really don't think what we've done in the last 4 months has been something that really, I'll just go back to a year ago when I told the board several times in open hearings that we need a deal maker. I suggested Howard Thomas, and everybody said, who? And that was fine. A board made its written.
Not everybody.
So, okay, I got a lot of flack from it, from the staff to other board members. And I wanted to short-circuit this big planning RFP process because I knew it was not going to work. What we were asking for was incredibly ridiculous based on our position. And I do not wish to have the CEO involved in any affiliation process. I don't think it's his jurisdiction. I think the board needs to take over, and it needs a point person. One point person that reports to the board only, and not to the CEO or any other staff, and let the board decide, because that's what they're supposed to be doing. And I would like to have this someone with as much pizzazz, if you will, as Howard Thomas. And I want the board to know that if this type of process isn't, and we can go through with Plan B, but if if that's not the process, I'm going to hand over the reins to whoever wants it, and they can go run with whatever plan they want. But that's the only way it's going to work, and short-circuit the large costs involved in affiliation.
Okay, can I say something?
Well, no, I'm not done yet.
Go ahead.
I also said if you're going to have an affiliation process, you better get a group that, I said the $400,000 folks may have been very exorbitant, but I said you may only have one shot at it, and one shot only. You should probably try to guarantee what you're going to do right away off the bat and spend some money one time instead of twice or 3 times. And this is the 3rd time now that we will be going and thinking about affiliation with another entity. So 1 time, 2 times, is 3 times a charm? I don't know. But I don't think if we do not facilitate a short circuit or a quick line to where we want to go quickly with one person on the rein reporting to the board, this affiliation process will not work.
Okay, I have a
Commissioner
question.
Herrick
May I say
has
something?
the floor.
First question, David, what is your relationship with this man?
With who?
With Howard?
I don't know him any other than the last time we were, a few phone calls.
Where is he from?
The only time I've met him is at our meetings.
Okay. Okay, I just want to make a comment. I believe that the CEO, the executive leadership team, should take the leadership in affiliation, to give them that opportunity to be able to meet with other health systems, other hospitals, find out, if they're interested. I think that they should be able to, rather than having to hire another person, whether, I don't know how much he would charge us, I think it is the CEO and the leadership team to take that role and then report to us. Because I think we have a new CEO. The past that you have referring to, of course, was a dismal failure, although I wasn't on board then. But I think this is an opportunity to start a clean slate with our CEO that has an excellent experience in healthcare systems. and he rose through the ranks, whereas the previous CEO really did not have that experience. So let's give him the opportunity to take that leadership role. That's my comment. Thank you.
Commissioner Pollard, would you like the floor?
What do you mean by him?
Meaning our current superintendent, CEO, Tom Parker. The previous CEO did not come from a hospital administrator function, so our current CEO, Tom Parker, has an excellent...
The way I feel about it is if one of our groundskeepers had the ability and talent to speak with another hospital and get us a deal, I'm for it. I identify with what Mr. Spiker said. If you go back to our affiliation attempt with Overlay, there were no members of their board in that affiliation process. This is what I mean by we should have done an after-action report. I have full confidence in our superintendent. If he wants to be the point man, but frankly, I also have full confidence in Howard Thomas, because he was making some progress when we told him to put it on hold because we were going to be talking affiliation and we didn't want the possible partner to know that we were out looking for some kind of merger situation. But so here's what you should know about Howard. I found this out in research with other institutions. He was responsible for the affiliation of Virginia Mason with what was previously Yakima Valley Memorial Hospital, the largest hospital in the valley. He was the guy that put that together, and he has a record of putting things like that together. And so I think there were some misunderstandings when we suspended work with Howard that may just be that, misunderstandings. I think we should check with Howard Thomas. Perhaps the superintendent could meet with him privately, see if we can clear up any misunderstandings. Consider other ECG, for instance. David mentioned ECG.
Do we really want...
Well, let me finish. I just think that Spikers is on the right, Commissioner Spikers is on the right track. And what we don't need is to continue. We've spent $60,000 to $70,000 right now on consultants just in this iteration. That's what they told us would be the total cost of their participation that would bring us to some kind of merger or affiliation. We're nowhere near there. We got one bid, and we've spent at least $60,000. So let's be smart about this. As far as holding this as a regular board meeting, I think we need to have a work session where we can interchange ideas and build on others' ideas without so much rigidity as we had when Mr. Gallagher was here and we were allowed to ask one question at a time. It was very rigid. We need an informal meeting of the minds where we can build on each other's insights. And I should stop there.
I just want to can I tag on to what he did say?
You better make it short, because Commissioner Young gets a chance.
Okay. Commissioner Young, you want to speak first?
Well, I'm just going to say, why don't we table this whole discussion about how we're going to do, what we're going to do, and whatever, until we get to the work study and
Do some hashing it out.
and hash it out appropriately.
I agree.
Commissioner Spikers?
Sounds good to me, but I could just tell you that the former CEO and didn't pay Mr. Thomas for 6, 8, 9 months after receiving a bill, and he may not want to work with us ever again. And I'm just saying, and not to mention that none of the staff has been very welcoming of him, whether it be the last CEO, and I don't think Mr. Parker or Tom has really wanted to have him partake in any kind of discussion.
Okay.
Just a quick question. What is his professional background? Because I don't know him from Adam. What is his?
He puts together hospital
Yeah, but what is
affiliation
his
deals.
title in the past? What?
All right, point of order.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
My turn.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
That's all right. I'm probably one of those people that had issues with David's friend. And,
Not a friend,
What's
believe
his
me.
name? What's his name?
Howard
Thomas.
Yes, with Howard Thomas. I did have some issues with him, mostly because he didn't report to us and we didn't know anything was going on. I have also talked and was on the first one when I got right here, and I know Commissioner Jones, I know everybody else, but Emma knows that I was on that committee. And I did talk to Mike from Overlake. That's who we were discussing with. And it was our debt. Our debt was the issue for them. Now, we still have debt, but we also have a new facility, and we also have money in the bank,
And
which
a
makes...
track record.
Yes, so now we are in a different position than we were then. So I'm open to whatever the board says. I think a work study session, we've already started talking, but I think a work study would be a good time for us to do that and for us to close up tonight, and we can all sleep on this and think about it and come back. The difficulty is going to be to get a good work session. And we have a public comment that wants to speak. Is that all right?
Yes.
The chair will recognize you, yes.
I'm Sandy Johnson, and I live in the district. I probably have handled 30 hospital affiliations, and I'm not making it to be loyal to do it. But what I will tell you is, the board can do it any way they want, but I have never seen an executive excluded from the process. The executive, in my experience, is always the point person who's dealing with the folks on the other side. Boards get involved to different extents. It is a very sort of personalized process for each organization. So you can have people from the board who are involved, and you have people who have business and negotiating experience that are valuable to be in the process. But the other thing is, if you've got somebody who you know has put together these kind of things before and is effective at putting together these kinds of things, particularly in the healthcare space, it's a really specialized and hazardous area. So if you've got people who are experienced at doing it, you want to take advantage of that experience if you can. However you think is appropriate to do.
Thank you. Could you say your name for the record?
Sandy Johnson.
Thanks, Sandy. I appreciate it.
What do you mean you've handled 30 affiliations
Hospital affiliations.
as legal counsel?
Yes.
Oh, okay, all right.
As the regulatory side
Okay.
on the legal counsel. I don't do the corporate work to put it together, but I advise on the structure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Pollard.
Commissioner Young was asking, what's his background and all of that. I think you
It
can
was-
notice the number of affiliations and
That
mergers
was
he's
fine.
put together.
Commissioner Herring.
But here's, Commissioner Herring asked that question. Here's an important thing. He's a resident of North Canton. He has the community interest at heart as opposed to somebody who might come here from Timbuktu. And I talked with him a few months ago, and I think he is a sincere person and a capable person, and we ought to check with him as one of our possibilities. But I think that the idea of discussing this further in a work session is a good one.
Okay.
And so I'd suggest that we not go further tonight in the discussion.
Is that a motion, Commissioner Pollard?
I move that we discuss the Plan B here, or the item 2 here, and the idea of a Plan B in a work session to be held as soon as convenient for all of the principals to attend, including commissioners and the superintendent.
Okay. Is there a second?
And, of course,
Is this a
This is a
point of
motion.
order? Is this a point of...
But there's a motion before the body. Your president has asked, is there a second to the motion? If there is no second forthcoming, it would die.
I second.
I'm seconding. Now you can have debate discussion.
Is there any debate?
Are we not on the
we had
other?
the
We
debate.
are on the other. We did not have any. This is where we are now.
I think so.
I move that we vote on, I would like to
Call the question.
call for the question.
All right.
Point of order, we were on the other.
Yes, and
It
under
was
other,
not
your
a-
president has opened up a debate and a
Is that,
discussion.
okay,
So this is still before the body.
okay, thank you, just for clarification.
Now, could you read what the motion is for us right now?
Commissioner Powers moved to discuss Plan B, and item number 2 is set forth under the recommendations in a work study as soon as possible and as convenient for all parties.
And did I get a second?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we will go to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it was unanimous.